Frozen by Shadow Figures, a short story by Cassie Moore. Libby Sullivan woke up from a deep sleep. For a split second, she couldn't figure out why she had been woken up. That's when, somewhere out of nowhere, she got punched in the back. She froze in her bed. As the rain poured down on the tin roof, Libby felt her heart pounding out of her chest. She finally forced herself to roll over on her back. She slowly scanned the room, looking around. She saw nothing in the glow of the bedside lamp. And then she felt a blanket of oppression and darkness washed down over her. Libby said a silent prayer. Lord Jesus, please, if you're real and out there, will you please save me? As she said this prayer, peace and love washed over her. And that's when she saw a shadow figure in the corner of her room slowly but surely walk out into the hallway of her house. It stopped in the hallway. It looked at her parents' room, then her sister's room, then back to her 3 times, and then it disapparated into nothingness. She couldn't remember when she fell asleep, but she finally did. The next morning when she woke up, she heard the sound of food being cooked, the smell of bacon, the smell of eggs. She heard her parents laughing, and she heard her sister making jokes. And that's when hope and peace washed back over her again, and she rushed in the kitchen and saw that her family was safe. A Descent into Madness, short story by Cassie Moore. Libby Sullivan lost her grandparents to a drunk driver. She was finally able to connect with them when she was 10 years old. She made a home with them, and they made her feel safe. At 16, that's when they passed. They were just gone. She felt more alone than ever. She had spent her time traveling the United States in a tricked-out van life van that her grandma helped her work on from the time she was 10 to give them a project to unite and bond on. They started the project, and she enjoyed her time with her grandfather and her days helping her grandmother on Sundays cook Sunday meals. She was grateful for the time she got to spend. As Libby explored an abandoned town in Arizona, she enjoyed the adobe buildings that were run down. And after a while, when the sun started to slowly set, they started casting ominous shadows over the landscape. And that's when she decided to head on to the next place. So she got in her van, and she started to drive away. And as she started to drive away, she looked out her rearview mirror, and she couldn't believe what she saw, because she could have sworn she saw shadow figures moving from building to building. Libby rubbed her eyes, thinking she was just tired, and shook it off. And she drove for about 30 minutes. And she was a little creeped out, but she didn't think much of it after that. She found a rest stop 30 minutes away and pulled in and parked to get ready for sleep that night. As she got ready, she just kept hearing distant howling. And she heard that same howling as she drove away from the Arizona town, but she didn't think much of it. But at 3 a.m., she woke suddenly, and she heard scratches coming from outside her van, circling her van, as if something was scratching her van trying to get in. She pulled the covers over her head and hid under her covers, shaking. This can't be real, this can't be real. And for what felt like forever, which is only a few hours until sunrise, she lay in her van, shaking as the scratches continued. But as dawn approached and started to break through the night, that's when the scratching stopped. And eventually she had the courage to open the door, step outside, and nothing was out there. But as she turned back toward her van, she saw scratches. And she walked around her van and saw these deep scratches that messed up her paint job on her van. She got so creeped out, she just jumped back in her van, secured her van, and started driving as fast as she could away from that area, down the highway. ... Running from the Darkness by Cassie Moore. Libby Sullivan ran down the staircase of the school. She had just been in the locker room, changing from gym, And that's when she seen it. A shadow figure came out of nowhere. She felt the ominous feeling of depression and hatred. As she started running down the hall, it chased after her, giving pursuit. She burst out of the school's front doors and down the stairs at the front and stood in the sun, basking in the glow of the ray of the sun, letting the sun just soak up into her, blasting away the darkness and hatred from the shadow figure. As she stood there, she got an odd feeling. As she turned back around toward the school, she looked at the front door, and through the window she saw the shadow figure, beckoning her, calling back to her to come back in. She refused and kept backing away, looked up at the sun, closed her eyes, and let the sun wash all over her, giving her renewed energy and hope for the oncoming day.